right, welcome to another episode of the Jersey String Band podcast. I'm your host, Alex. Next to me, as always,
Captain Pat.
And our special guest today is
Tom Loomis from the Woodland String Band.
Awesome. Thank you for coming up.
Thanks for inviting me.
I guess we should start from the beginning, wherever the beginning might be. How did you get into this crazy hobby?
Yeah, go back a few years. Back when I was 11 years old, my next door neighbor by the name of Bobby Christopher was the music director of the Avalon String Band. This is the Harry Lawson Avalon String Band. And he brought me over. I joined at 11 years old. I did my first parade with Avalon. Harry passed away. Rini sold off the band. I left there. I moved on to the Uptown String Band where I was there for 3 years. And then I met this cute little brunette when I was a high school sophomore. And her uncle was in the Uptown String Band. And she enticed me to join Uptown back in 1977. And that's where I've been ever since.
No,
Woodland.
Woodland, you mean, right?
Woodland, what did I say?
Uptown.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
You were already at Uptown.
I got stuck in Uptown. No, I came over to Woodland in
It's hard to get back
77.
over from Canada.
And I've been yeah, that was in
At
the
that
Uptown.
point.
That was at Tabor Road and Masher.
Yeah,
So they
definitely,
truly were
Really
Uptown.
nice, really
Yeah.
nice neighborhood. So I was the original Uptown String Band back then, and then when I came to Woodland, it was in 1977, and I've been there ever since.
It's been a long
This
time.
is my 49th year with Woodland.
It's been a long time.
The band's 100th, my 49th. So
Almost half.
almost.
Yeah, so let's get into the 100th then. You just mentioned it, obviously. 2026 is official, right?
February 26th. Yeah.
February.
Our first parade was 27.
Okay.
So this will be the 100th parade. 100th year. There was a couple of years there weren't parades, obviously. The COVID
Yes.
year.
Yeah.
There was one during World War II, I believe, and one back during the Depression.
Yeah, don't
But
remember
there,
those days.
There were neighbors. No, I wasn't around then either. We always tell Dave Anderson, what was it like back then, Dave? But every time there was a sponsored parade, Woodland participated. We're a true 100 years old, just like Furco. Furco being the oldest with the longest consecutive marching streak.
Right.
And we're right behind them with consecutive. I know that other bands were founded before ours. But they may have gone through a few years where they didn't parade or they changed names or whatever. They moved, But we're proud of what we accomplished. One of the best things that we like to brag about with Woodland is 9 members founded the Woodland String Band back in 1926. The band has never been owned by anything other than the membership. We've always been a membership-owned band,
That's cool.
which back then was really unique.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because they were all named,
they're named after the founder
Person,
for the most part.
Yep.
So that's always one of the things that we've always been most proud of. My 30 years as president, it's one of the things I always stress to the membership, that you're an owner. You have a responsibility to keeping this tradition alive. As we go through years and years, and you guys are probably one of the best recent examples of trying to protect the tradition, right? Nobody ever joined a Woodland String Band prior to 2012 to win the parade. We had been around since 1926 and had never won the parade. So everybody who joined for the love of Mummery and for the brotherhood of Mummery.
Yep.
And now, don't get me wrong, 2012 was an amazing,
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah, we'll get into that.
But 100 years to us is an accomplishment we're going to make a big deal out of.
And you should. I mean, not a lot of things last 100 years.
No.
Not a lot of entities, businesses, anything like that.
It's been challenging sometimes.
Yeah, as well. It should be.
COVID put a big stress on all of us, right?
Yes.
So none of us came out of COVID the way we went in.
No, that's for sure.
So people found other things to do. So it's still in my blood. It's one of the things I'm most proud of is my accomplishments with the Woodland String Band for a volunteer organization. I feel as though I do something that brings joy.
Yeah.
And I think Woodland is a good example of that.
Talk about some of your accomplishments within the band.
Well,
you touched on it already. You were
President,
you're
obviously.
president of
I
the
was
band.
president of the band for 30 years. I first got elected to the board of directors in 1984 after I got discharged from the Navy as secretary. In 85, we reorganized the band. That was after Big Dave passed away. And we never had a president, vice president type of setup. We always had the captain was always the leader of our organization.
Okay.
So we went to a regular traditional administration, and Bob Corcoran asked me to run as his vice president. And I did that, and 3.5 years later, Bob resigned. And I became president. And I was deciding whether I wanted to run or not because I was the vice president. And I didn't know if I wanted to be president. I was working up in Harrisburg. I was only home on the weekends. My wife told me that we should give the membership the opportunity to decide. And I ran against another member, and I won. And I ran unopposed all but one of the next 30 years as president. And I tried to resign after 20, retire, not resign, try to retire after 20.
Kept talking you into it?
And my son talked me into staying on because he had just started marching. And I tried to retire after 25. My son said, Dad, it's not a round number. So after 30, I said, I'm done. I retired. I moved on to treasurer, and the treasurer became president. That was the deal. I would take over his job if he took over mine. And along came COVID. And I was never more happy not to be president. What he did to keep the club going during COVID was spectacular. So that was one of my accomplishments. One of the ones I'm most proud of is in January 1st of 1994, I was inducted into the Woodland Hall of Fame. I'm a very proud member of the Woodland Hall of Fame. And then in 2003, I was inducted into the String Band Hall of Fame. And then in 2012, I got the phone call from City Hall. And I got to tell the members of the Woodland String Band that they were the champions.
Yeah.
So
Let's go back to the Hall of Fame. Like that's, I mean, to have your band recognize you like that, I mean, it's obviously saying something really big. But then they have the association recognize you like that. What did that mean to you?
Being recognized within your own organization to me is paramount to anything, right? Because they're the people you really work for.
Yeah.
You know, and I always found myself as an officer as I worked at, served at the grace of the membership of the Woodland String Band. They gave me the honor and the privilege to lead. When I was inducted into the String Band Hall of Fame, it was a really unique night. I had no idea I was being nominated. Dave Anderson was very good at being clandestine when he had to be. And on Tuesday nights after rehearsal, because I had a tendency to stay a little late, my wife would drive over from Gloucester Township, pick our son up and bring him home so he wasn't out until midnight on a Tuesday night. So she would come over, but Woodland's an all-male band. And on Tuesday nights, it's all-male. Sundays, the women can come in, not on Tuesdays. So it's a Tuesday night, and walking into the club is my wife and my daughter. First thing I say, well, and then David says, back off. Okay. When Dave Anderson speaks, everybody listens, right? Because he doesn't speak up too often. So with that, my son comes out of the men's room with a piece of paper, and he gets at the music director's stand, and he reads the nomination letter of me being nominated to the String Band Hall of Fame. And David then goes and says that I was indeed elected to the String Band Hall of Fame. So it was a very surreal night to have my son read that letter. And one of the best things I've ever done in string band is march with my son. Family is, he doesn't march anymore. His life has changed a lot. He has a 5-year-old, and he's divorced, so he has visitation, and it's tough for his schedule. So I'll never forget the first year. 2000 was his first year in costume. We did Shakespeare on the Street. I don't know if you remember that theme. It was a great theme, something different we did. And my son was one of the 4 fairies.
Okay.
And he's just dressed in white taffeta with a platinum blonde wig and a tiara, and And he came walking up and told me how nervous he was before we went in because he had to do a dance with Dave, him and the other 3 young men who were very good at what they did. And they were all 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
And he came up afterwards and I said, "How'd you do?" He goes, "I threw the glitter right in David's face." So he did his job, but marching along with him and then celebrating 2012 alongside with him was special. So marching, hopefully, everybody gets that thrill of marching with a son or a daughter and enjoying this great tradition. It is really important.
It absolutely is. I mean, he gets to do it with his sons.
I do it with both my brothers, my dad, my mom. Both my sons have performed the last couple of years with us. So I have my whole family out there with me. There's nobody else out there that I'm looking for.
Yeah, you don't have to
So-
look in the audience to find anybody. They're
No,
right there on the street
They're right
with
there
you.
with me. So as long as my son doesn't sabotage me before the judging stand, which he likes to do, always shake my dad's hand before we enter the judging stand. And then as long as my son doesn't run over and give me a big hug and say proud of you just before we start, I'm like, come on now, you got me all teared up before I got to start.
And that to be honest with you, my son would always, because I'm always in the back of the band being a bass player, and he was up front. He was an alto player, and then 1 year he was tenor. But he would always come back to find me before we went into the judging area, And he would give me that hug and that kiss and tell me he loved me, and you just. That was a special moment to have.
You know
that.
it's coming, but
You're not.
you're not ready for it.
Exactly, it's a good way. You're not ready. You're not ready for the emotional part.
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
You can't wait for it to happen.
Yeah.
But the emotional part's difficult.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one last story about March with my son. We came walking out of the judging area in 2012, and I knew we did something special. You just had that feeling. And my son came up. He goes, "How do you think we did?" I said, "I think you just won the parade." He goes, "You always say that." I said, "I've never said that." And we won the parade. So it was just sharing that with him. Now I go up front to announce it, and I stand in front of the band, and everything's a blur at that point. And then after I announce it, I'm like, "Where's my son?"
Yeah. Yeah, those days, the New Year's Day for the most part is a blur. You get out there, you get going through a routine, and you're always so worried about making sure everything else is right that you can control. And you sometimes don't realize you're missing the important things.
Yeah. Well,
Until afterwards, like, oh man, I wish I did that.
Well, it's funny. For many years, and still sometimes, I get out of the judging stand and I can't remember anything I did.
That's
Yeah.
You kind of
same thing.
because
Yeah.
it's all muscle memory at that point, right?
Yep.
John Pignotti used to have a great saying. Bands would keep on rehearsing on New Year's Day, and he goes, "Folks, if you don't have before you get there on New Year's Day, you're not going to get it on New Year's Day.
No.
So your muscle memory's got to be in place before you get there. Now, sure, New Year's Day you want to practice, you want to make sure it's fresh in your mind, but you don't want to wear everybody out before they get there. And
No,
the
you
old
got-
days of the 3 mile parade,
Yeah. I mean, you just got to go through the routine. Everybody's in full dress. You just got to make sure everything physically works. You can practice all you want, but until you're in full dress and full suit, sometimes that move where you want to go around a prop don't exactly work.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the only time you have every member,
Yes.
right? I can honestly say maybe a handful of times you have every member, that there's not a conflict that somebody can't be there, even with dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
And you never have all your props.
No.
Because there's always something that's still being done, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, I mean, crap. The one time we had everybody here for rehearsal practice, it poured outside. So we're all jammed inside the room,
And you
we're
can't
like,
get the spacing.
We don't have this. We don't have enough room inside here. So literally, we go, okay, this half of the band is practicing this. Okay, move over. Now that you guys.
And
So
even if there is a dress rehearsal, you may not be wearing everything you're going to be wearing it.
Yeah, well, how many
Yeah,
guys
it's-
forget their
it's-
suspenders so they can't wear their pants because they're falling down? Or how many people didn't put foam in their hat so they
Yeah.
can't wear their hat that
Right.
day? And
Yeah.
and we're no different than any other
Yeah.
organization.
Yep.
Every group. Every group.
Yeah. So it's I mean those moments on New Year's Day. That's especially right there.
Thank you.
In the judging area, like you say, your son come over to you and say, let's go, let's do this, let's make it happen, and that's just another layer of what we do
Exactly.
that not a lot of people, I guess, I mean, within the hobby, everybody knows, but like people outside, not really sure.
Well, that's what I was saying to
How
Pat
that works.
before we came up here, Alex. This podcast is wonderful because it's giving people an idea of what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And that's,
That,
that's the whole point of this.
You hear a guy from Woodland String Band with a couple guys from Jersey just talking about the love of the passion that goes into being a mummer.
Yeah.
I like to compete against you on New Year's Day. And for 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I want to do nothing better than to beat every other band out there.
Yeah.
But at any other time, I would do anything to help another organization.
Right.
We've recently had a member pass away. And there had to be members of 10 of the 14 bands who attended his viewing that night.
Yeah.
And they're just there to support. They may not have known Ryan, but they knew members of the band, or they knew his uncle,
Right.
or his cousin and AJ.
Right.
So they came out to support. And that's the things people don't see. They don't see the behind the scenes. They don't see things that Mummers Against Cancer do, or the Plandra Furry Foundation, which I'm very proud to be on the board of.
Right.
You know, they don't see the things that happen behind the scenes and the backbone of what Mummery does. A big shout out to Mayor Parker.
Yeah.
We're being acknowledged by the administration of the city of Philadelphia again. Isn't
Yeah.
that something that's
great.
you know, it's wonderful to see again? She led the string bands into the judging area.
Yep, and I mean, I was there on Monday, and she you know, whatever it was, but she's smiling, having a good time.
Yeah.
She got the
Out there
gave
with
her
an
the
umbrella, yeah.
and
Yeah.
doing the best she can, and
But
yeah,
she
so
embraces
she-
the tradition of Mummery, and
Yes.
it's nice to see that
It's-
from the city administration again.
It's funny, they were like trying to usher her in. She's like, no, I want to stay out here and listen to the music, you know, and then yeah, so
It's nice to see, and we haven't had that for a while.
no.
You know, so it was really, I couldn't make it Monday. I was stuck in my office, but I saw the video clips and I talked to a couple of people who were there, and they said that she really was sincere.
Yeah.
You know, and then she stayed afterwards to pose for pictures
Yep.
with people who wanted to
Yep.
pose for pictures with her, and she toured the museum. And
She did.
I can't remember the last time a city administrator wanted to hold an event at our Mummers Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know,
I think there
nice
was
to see.
250 seats or something they laid out, and they filled most of them.
Almost everyone was full.
Yep.
And she, you know, she's bringing the mayor's office back to the people, which is good to see.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, that's things happen, and you know sometimes you feel like you're on an island by yourself. But this one, she's a member of the people.
Yeah, she is. She is a mayor of the people of Philadelphia, and she definitely wants to see the city flourish.
Yeah, and she's
and
no
every part of
nonsense.
it. No.
no nonsense. This is what it is. This does, and if something doesn't pass the smell test, she says it,
And it's good to
and
see.
that's good. I like that. I don't like
And the fact that
sugarcoating
she was there on New Year's Day, she brought in the string bands, She
Which was
on
always
TV.
the tradition. I mean, Mayor always
Right.
brought the string bands in, and that
Right.
hasn't happened in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I mean, Congressman Brady was the one bringing us in for the
Yeah.
longest time while he was still serving.
I got pictures with him the 2 years we were first up. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys did too.
I was with him the famous Bruce Jenner year, standing there waiting to dedicate the judging booth in the honor of the great Tom Ferry, and we watched that skit go on, and he chuckled, and then we looked at each other and said, "Oh no,
Yeah, that's not right.
it wasn't right."
Yeah. So to go back, we need more
Positive things.
positive things, like you said, all the foundations that are throughout Mummers, and just putting on shining that good light on what we actually do, and that we're all not a bunch of heathens.
But that's the important
You know
thing
what I
is,
mean?
you know, the string bands for the longest, you know, people don't understand the tradition of mummery. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
You know, this is a Northern European tradition. So it was always strong within the Irish, English, Polish, you know, background. And that's where a lot of the Germans, you know, that's where most of it came from. The Wren Boys of Ireland, you know, and the Mummers of Wales. And, you know, it took a long time for it to break out of that strong tradition. I mean, our band is still predominantly Irish and Polish in Woodland. But now it's great to see the diversity coming
Right.
within string bands and mummery as a whole, which that's important, not just for mummery, but for connection with the community, right? And it's good to see. And it makes it more fun because it opens up the door to a lot of traditions, right? So I keep on looking at the change, and I'm going to go back and harken back to what the Jersey String Band has brought since you guys came to fruition. You're probably identified as the best family band in string bands right now.
Yeah,
You mentioned
that's
how
our
much
goal.
of your family's there. I mean,
Yeah, we're a family first band. That's how that's our goal. You know, we want your entire family to come in. We want you to be part of our family, and we want everybody. If you want to, my biggest thing is when someone asks, "Can I join your band?" I go, "Do you want to have fun?" And as long as they want to have fun, our door's open. Come on over. We want to have fun.
and that's the way it should be. You know, like I said, there's 365 days a year. We only compete on one of them,
Yeah,
right? The rest, we're working hard. You know, we're not an expanding tradition.
no,
You know, but we have to find a way to get people out there to understand that these doors are open to these clubs. You can walk in and join You know, don't bring a trumpet or a trombone.
No.
You know, bring a woodwind
Yeah.
or a percussion or a string instrument.
Yeah.
And if you don't know one, there's people who'll give you lessons.
There's tons of people in this hobby.
You know, so
And even if you can't, we need hands.
yeah. Oh,
It's
you
an
know,
army.
New Year's Day, how many marshals do you have? Right?
Exactly.
Many
Never
marshals.
enough.
No,
Never enough.
You have as many as you do costume members, if not more.
Yeah. And even then, you're like, man, if I had 2 or 3 more people.
Yeah. It's not like looking at the truck and seeing those 2 props still sitting on there using enough people, you know, to be able to handle them.
And then you sit there and look, and I'm like, oh man, how many hours did we spend working on that just to sit on the truck?
Yeah, could have been
Well,
doing other things.
I always, you know, I'm the financial secretary, and I always look and say, okay, we're going to spend X amount of dollars on props. We're going to use them one day.
Exactly.
Then they're going to go into a garage that we spend X amount of dollars per month to store them, so we can bring them back out. So the expense of props it's crazy. It's costumes. At least we use them all year long.
Oh yeah, no,
You know?
and that's why we spend most of our monies on our costumes.
I don't think we have a choice.
Unfortunately.
We happen to have. We're fortunate to have James May as our costumer.
Yes.
And he does an amazing job on costumes. But it's not going to be inexpensive because one thing Jimmy doesn't know how to make a cheap suit.
No.
You know, you're going to pay for you're going to get what you pay for, but you're going to have to pay for it to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
No, trust me. I mean, we both have a couple Jimmy May suits from when we bought the Downtowner suits with Brummel. And
Yeah, I love that suit.
they were-
It's a Mad Hatter suit. Man, I love that thing.
Yeah.
Hot and heavy, but
oh yeah,
but yeah,
everything's
so-
everything's lined.
everything.
very lined, very heavy.
But you put it on and you feel like a mummer.
Yeah, and he just
Yeah.
does amazing stuff. Matter of fact, right now in his shop, because James May started in business as a gown and wedding gown maker.
Yes.
That's how he started in business. I mentioned my son's getting married in December, and we brought his fiance up there, and James right now is making her wedding gown.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
There you go.
So, and she's thrilled, and she saw his detail. She goes, I can't believe he can think like that. It's the way he thinks.
It just comes natural to him
Yeah.
after all these years.
So,
Yeah, it's incredible to see like some of the drawings, and then you see him in real life. You're like,
how does he bring that to life?
it came just any of the costumers really.
They're all
It's-
amazing in what they do.
Yeah, you're like, how did you make that? Like, how did you make from scratch?
That's what's funny. My future daughter-in-law said, she goes, wait a second, the guy who makes these costumes makes wedding gowns? I said, yeah. She goes, I can't wait to see what he can do, because after she saw our costumes.
Oh yeah.
And she's right. We went up there. He has a few wedding gowns hanging out, and she tried on a couple different things because he wanted to get a feel for what Tony wanted. And when it was done, she said, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. He goes, "No, just try it on. Just try it on. Betty Lou, his wife's helping her. And gets all done. He goes, okay, here's what you're looking for. And he brings out the lace, and he brings out the satin, and he lays everything out. She goes, exactly. So he knows exactly what they're looking for.
He's done it enough that he can read
Exactly.
read her faces, read her side, knows what she doesn't like and likes with the dress, and go, okay, well, if you like this and this, that means you're gonna like this and this.
Right. And that's how it came out. And we can't wait to see the finished product. We've been up there twice now. Now he's putting, fabric together, and we're going to see next time we go up to see what it looks like. But
That's cool.
it's there again, another part of mummery that reached into our family. Right?
Yeah.
Going to a costume to have a wedding gown made. So,
Well, see, that's the thing though. Did you go to a costumer to get a wedding gown made, or did Woodland go to a dress maker to get costumes made?
that's a good point. I mean, he started out right as a wedding gown maker, so I guess we go to a wedding gown maker to get costumes made.
Yeah. Hey, he can make an amazing costume.
And we're the only one he does now. I mean, Jimmy's not getting any younger. So
No.
he won't take on any more than one club. We're fortunate that when we made the phone call to go back to him, he was available to us.
Yeah, I always got when I was the recording secretary for the association. I always got emails from him.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm available for specialty suits.
Yeah, because he would do dancers and he would do captains and stuff like that. He didn't want to do bands anymore. And when we
Yeah.
went back to him, we said, okay, well, I can't do anybody else with specialty suits. We said, okay. And he still did a couple captains. But he likes to be done now by Christmas time to spend the holidays at home with the family. He doesn't want to be stuck in the shop over the holidays.
Yeah, I wish we could be too.
Christmas is just a 1 week speed bump before New Year's?
Yeah, it is.
It's a 48 hours of no work being done.
Yeah. No,
But you got to
Well,
budget.
even
you
still,
budget. It's a 48-hour break.
it's still,
It's a necessary
I don't
break.
know, I missed one New Year's Day. I came home in November of 1980 to get married. And I went home I was stationed in Italy, went back to Italy on November 30th. So I missed New Year's Day. And missing Christmas was horrible. I was on a TDY in Naples, staying at the Jolly Hotel with 5 other guys. Wasn't even on the ship at that point, so that was horrible. And then New Year's Day, I'm sitting on the ship, and I didn't find out until a week later how we finished, because there was no cell phones back then. There was no email. You had to wait for the letter to come in the mail. But I missed one New Year's Day, and it was horrible missing that New Year's Day. The other 3, when I was in the Navy, I was able to get home for them, so I only missed the one. But, you don't know what you miss until you don't have it, when you miss that New Year's Day.
Yeah, but, as much as I'm sure you miss it, we do appreciate your service, though.
Yeah, and I was honored to serve. I mean, one thing I'll never regret is a single day I served in the Navy. It was 4 wonderful years of growth, education, and learning how to follow, and then also learning how to lead. So, anybody who serves in the military, if you embrace the traditions and what it's all about, it's a great experience.
So, now, with being involved with Mummery before and with all the traditions that we have, was it easier for you when you got in the Navy to accept what you just said?
I don't
know if you've ever thought of it that way.
No, it's very true. I was in boot camp. I was 17 years old. In boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois, they have one of the recruits. They make what they call the RPOC, which is the Recruit Chief Petty Officer.
Okay.
And because of my ability to march and having a big mouth, surprise, I have a big mouth. Right? They appointed me as Recruit Chief Petty Officer of my company, and it was what an amazing honor to lead this company. Every time you're marching throughout, the command, going from whether it's to class or to firefighting school or to chow or whatever it may be, and then that day of graduation, with my father and my fiance sitting up there, and I'm out front with the cutlass, leading Company 200 in review. It was an amazing thing. So yeah, it goes both ways. It taught me a lot, not just for string bands, but it did indeed help. But it helped me in my professional life too. Giving orders is easy. Taking orders isn't always that easy. No. And I always found the best leaders are usually the ones who are the best followers, and they learn from following. And I think I did a really good job of that. I've fallen into the background now, or I'm trying to. It's tough it's tough after 30 years in your own club, because guys still come to you and I say, I'm not the guy anymore. You got to go to presser. You got to go to dragger. It's not me. But I guess having all those years of experience, it doesn't hurt when guys want to get an opinion. So I try really hard to take the back seat. Even I guess in dissociation I never will, because Sammy always looks at me to make the motion so we can get the meeting moving, right? But that's become a novel thing of the association meetings.
Yeah, but it's you and me for the most part.
I make the motion, you second it, or vice versa.
I think that also leads from us leading meetings ourselves and just like, all right, let's get this over with here.
Exactly, and you served on the board of the association, and that you get the diversity of all the different bands in there. You want to make sure the business gets conducted in a thorough and complete way.
Yes.
But you also got to be careful not to get wrapped around the axle on certain things,
yes.
Right? I think Sammy Ragabuto has done an amazing job as president. I mean, there again, he got us through COVID.
Yeah.
The telethon, and now with the luau.
Yeah.
And with the Haddon Township Parade, and he's just brought so much to the advantage of the string bands to actually make some extra income. But he leads in a very direct yet understanding and open way. I think Sammy really has a deep passion for what we do, and it shines through. And sometimes we as bands don't always make his job easy. And I served for 3 years as president of the association, and I know how, you get labeled as you're a big band guy or you're a small band guy, and I always tried for 3 years I served. You served with me. I tried to serve all 16 bands at the time. And I also, I had the pleasure of being the president when the parade was changed.
Yes.
That was an interesting, because, you know, people think that I initiated that, and I did not. That was
No.
initiated before I came on as president, and I got handed that the night of elections, if you remember.
I think I was at, I want to say your first meeting as, maybe was your first meeting as president? Might have been at Broomall.
It was.
And I think
Avalon is where Marty told me that we already had a meeting with the other divisions.
I
And
think we talked about it there, because I
Yeah.
think that was when I first started getting involved. And when I was with Broomall, and I was working the meeting. I wasn't involved in the meeting. I was
Right.
working the meeting, and I remember you going, okay, this is what I got.
and it came down, I had two of the best people in the world that helped put that together from the string band side, and Bill Bowen and Denny Palandro.
Yes.
They were there working tirelessly with us. Jimmy Julia from the Fancy Brigades, and, you know, Richie Porco, and Mr. Cohen, and oh God, I'm forgetting his name. I feels terrible for doing this, but the Wench Brigades, we all worked together. We sat in multiple meetings up in the Mummers Museum Library, going over alternatives, because the city pretty much told us, if we don't change it, they're going to change it for us.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
You know, the parade was not a parade anymore. It was a stand in line and wait to be judged with nobody on the sidelines. So the thought in being was, and it seems so good on paper, is that let's all practice, go to our show, get rid of the props, and then have a parade. So people who want to see the show with the props can go down to the Parkway and watch it, or JFK, and watch the bands rehearse with the props, or get seats at City Hall and watch the show. And then afterwards, we'd go on to South Broad and give them a parade.
Yes.
Well, the best laid plans don't always work.
Listen, it sounds good on paper. I personally, I only went up the street once. My first year, the last year up the street was my only year going up the street. And I agree. I mean, it was, you know, you had people at the at the rehearsal spots, but outside of that, it was people walking from one building to the next.
Yeah.
It wasn't people there for the parade. That was people that needed to get down the street.
Because let's face it, it wasn't a parade.
No.
Bands were just standing there waiting to get to the next rehearsal spot.
Yeah. And then you get down to the last rehearsal spot, and then you're running to Union League, and then you're running to City Hall. You get to City Hall, and the band in front of you is halfway through their routine, and you're still trying to catch your breath.
And you're huffing and puffing as you get there. And
Yeah.
I think you've been early in the parade. Woodland had the pleasure of being first or second for 3 out of 4 years. Yeah. And when you got on the South Broad during the daylight, it was a huge crowd.
Oh,
it was
awesome.
wonderful.
Packed, yeah.
But as soon as the sun went down,
Yeah.
the street emptied, right?
Yeah, we experienced that last year.
Yeah. Well, the wind killed it last year.
man.
It was
No.
so windy. It was so windy. It was that. Listen, we made the best out of a bad situation weather-wise, and it was the right call because it only got worse.
Yeah. We're lucky nobody got hurt, though.
Yes.
That wind was really tough on the marshals, and I had a hat that was huge, and it was dangerous. Especially when we got down towards like Carpenter.
Well, that
Christian.
that building they were building there, it's all hollowed out.
Yeah, the wind was
Just
whipping
went right through.
Yeah, one throw, and
Yeah.
it was bad, but it is what it is. I mean, unfortunately, you always have to deal with, even when there's no wind, there's wind.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. Somebody asked me, and it's my buddy from Florida. He goes, "Why do y'all have a parade on New Year's Day in Philadelphia? Couldn't you think of a better day to have a parade than New Year's Day?" He goes, "It gets cold up there." I said, "Yeah, it does."
He has a point.
Yeah,
but it's tradition.
But it's also been 7 degrees and 70 degrees on that same day. So
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't on that day. It was a rain day. That we had a really warm day, if you remember.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because it rained, it poured. I remember I was a director that year, and me and John Pignotti went downtown, and the managing director was telling us that the sun's going to come out. We're looking at the map, said, "It's green from here to Ohio. When do you see the sun coming out?"
The sun's going to come out tomorrow.
Yeah. So we postponed it. It poured all day that New Year's Day, and then that following Saturday, I think it was like 66 degrees or something. It was
it was
gorgeous. And we did a Caribbean theme, so it was perfect for us. But You get back to, you know, the trials and tribulations of New Year's Day. I mean, we marched in the coldest parade I think there ever was.
Yeah.
And that was a dangerous day to be out there. We marched in warm weather. We marched in windy weather. I
Yeah.
marched in the snow. I marched in the rain. You
Yeah.
know, and it's always a gamble. New Year's Day is not the best day of the year to have a parade, but it is the tradition. We are the New Year's shooters, right?
Yes.
Mummers, you know, traditionally went around on New Year's Eve chasing away the evil spirits of the preceding year and welcoming in good tidings of the new year. That's how we became what we are.
Yeah.
We kind of twisted a little bit since those days of straw hats and, you know, masks, but
that's what we do best, right?
it's an ever-evolving tradition.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's neat about it. You know, I started with the box step, wearing a back piece. You know, God, showing your age and mummery. You know, this past year I was the oldest guy in costume in Woodland at 62 years old. You know, so. 63, sorry. 63 on New Year's Day. So, I want to do 2 more years. I want to get my 50th under my belt. At that point, I'll be 65. Then I'll start evaluating it year on year whether I can still get out there with a baritone sax and parade or not.
Yeah, that baritone sax has to put a number on your back.
Not as bad as the bass was. I was glad to hand the bass sax off. That definitely is in my past. But the next step is tenor, but they drill.
They run.
And,
they don't drill. They run.
Yeah, I'd much rather stay in the back and do a little sway and opening and closing.
Yeah.
And I do that really well.
Yeah.
You sway. You're a swayer.
I'm a swayer. I've never been much of a dancer.
All right. Well, you kind of alluded to it earlier. Peeking at it, 2012. Let's get into that.
Okay.
Obviously, well, Woodland has never won. Prior to that, you kind of gave a little peek of what your feelings was when you got the results. Just add on to that, at what that night was, how, you know.
Okay.
And what was the feeling around the club and all that?
Well, we were still on the Parkway. We were on getting our buses. We had three buses with Woodland because of the number of marshals. And I'm on one bus. Franny Carr, music director's another bus. He's texting me, "Do you have anything yet?" I said, "No." He goes, "Come on." I said, "Fran, I don't have it yet." He goes, "We can't get these prizes on the bus. We have to." He goes, "We can't leave." I said, "Fran, we got to go. We got to clear the Parkway. They want us out of here." With that, my phone rings, and it's Richie Bruce, God rest his soul, calling me from up in the MSB.
We have a new champion. And that champion's never won before. And that would be the Woodland String Band.
For you.
Go call Tommy.
Call him right- yeah,
You
that's
know
right.
what? We're gonna wait 5 minutes to get out.
That is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
And he goes, his words were, "They're given 15 minutes since there's a new champion." Okay,
Why would he
15
call
minutes.
you,
Why,
right?
why are you telling me that? Why do I? He goes, No. We have 15 minutes. I said, "What do you mean we have 15 minutes?" He goes, "We won." I said, "Hold on." The bus is starting to pull at that point. I get JR gets off the bus from Johnny Robinson. "Johnny, stop that other bus." And the other bus is behind us. So I get off the bus and I have my little Bluetooth earbuds back then. And I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Are you positive?" He goes, "Tom, we won. We got 15 minutes." I get everybody off the bus. I call up Shaggy, Dave Anderson, Franny, and Matt Kerr, captain, legend, music director, and drill master. They're in front of me. Shaggy's off to the side. Shaggy never, ever was a limelight guy.
Yeah.
For a captain, he never wanted the limelight. And when the prize came in, he was sitting off to the side and he had his hand in his head, expecting a typical Woodland prize. With that, there was, for years, the kids in the back of the band would say, "Every year you give the prize, your facial expression never changes. How will we ever know if we won?" I said, "If you ever see me kiss Dave Anderson on the lips, you know you won." So now I have this prize. I'm standing in front of all the guys. I'm on a little wall there on the Parkway. And I have Dave and the Kerr boys in front of me, and my phone rings. Oh no. I look, it's Richie. I said, "Yeah, Rich." Figured he got it wrong, right? He goes, "I have the rest of the prizes." I said, I don't care. All these guys in front of me. I was sitting here and write down the rest of the prizes. So I told him, I'll get that from you later. With that, I know David's right in front of me. So where's Dave Anderson? He looks at me and goes, I'm right here. And I kiss him on the lips. And if you ever see the video, you heard some guy say, we won. And I just looked and I said, you're the champions. And Bedlam broke out.
I promised this band I would do one thing. We got first. We won! You're the champion!
Yeah.
And it was Dave Anderson looked at me, goes, same result. He says, are you sure? I said, yeah, David, I'm sure. He goes, are you sure? I said, yes. And we hugged and people dogpiled on top of us.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we're down there on the parkway now, and after like 20 minutes, Leo comes down, he goes, you guys got to get out of here. And the captain says, Leo, I had him on the buses. So he goes, take the party down to 2nd Street. So we get down to 2nd Street, and my daughter's waiting for me. She goes, where have you been? I said, we were partying on the parkway. She goes, we've been waiting for you for almost an hour. I said, I know. So we get there, and a lieutenant walks up, and she goes, you got to move that brigade. The champs are coming. I said, ma'am, I've waited my entire adult life to say this. She goes, what's that? I said, we are the champs. She goes, in that case, watch this. And she blows her whistle, and 6 bike cops get in front of us. She goes, just give us the word and we'll blaze the trail. So we're going down 2nd Street. I'm getting texts from Quaker City. Where are you guys at? I said, we're coming. Well, hurry up. We're getting there. We're getting there. Quaker City being the class, class pride and commitment, right, is their slogan. And they truly are a class organization. We get down to the Furnace High School, and they stop us in front of Quaker. With that, the Quaker City String Band, still in costume, standing in the side of Furnace's parking lot, wheeled out of Furnace to play for us, to present us the trophy. So Harry comes up, he goes, who are we giving the trophy to you? I said, no. He goes, Shaggy? I said, He goes, who? I said, only one man touches that first. They said, who? I said, Dave Anderson. He goes, that's so cool. So they play When You Wish Upon a Star. And at the bridge, they open up. And Charlie comes out with the trophy and hands it to Dave Anderson. What a surreal moment. Yeah. And then from there, we let him touch it for about 3 or 4 seconds. And then we grabbed it and went back into the bed. So we let him carry it down the street to the club. When we got to the club, they gave it to me to carry in. And as we're standing there, we played I Just Can't Wait to Be King. And our family sung it to us. And it was an emotional time. Now, all the way down 2nd Street, I'm watching Marshalls walk back with water. I said, guys, you got to get beer. They said, Mr. Loomis, they don't want beer. They want water. So I'm asking guys, what's going on? He goes, we want to remember this day.
Yeah.
2 days later, at the serenade, there was no water.
No.
Yeah.
But it was a moment in my life. Everybody should get the opportunity at least one time in this tradition to have that trophy pass through their hands. It takes a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of time, and growth, right? We grew our own band back then. We had 27 father-son combinations that year when we won. So we grew our own band back then. I wish I could rewind time and do it again. We had a young music director that grew into the job like no one I've ever seen in Franny Carr Jr. He was just amazing. That was the first year he ever wrote the music for us.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what he got for it. And he never finished out of the top 5 after that, writing music for us every year. His younger brother, Matthew, became our drill master. And having 2 brothers collaborate with each other to build the show. And then later on, our choreographer moved out to Cleveland. So Kim Kerr, their little sister, became our choreographer. Fran would draw the sketches for the costumes. And the Kerr brothers brought so much to the organization back then. It was just absolutely, what they've done for Woodland over the years will never be forgotten. They both reside in our Hall of Fame.
As well.
They grew up into the job that they did. Life changes, COVID comes, you have children, you find other things. They both retired and moved on. But they'll always be welcome in Woodlands Club. And one day, who knows, maybe they'll come back and wear the costume again. It'd be great to have them back in the club. But 2012 will always be a part of my life that I'll always cherish. And I hope to do it again before I'm too old to continue marching. Yeah. And I hope that another president gets the opportunity to say those few words.
Yeah, and the fact that you were the president at the time.
I got the
You
call.
know, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's,
And how many 6 prizes did I announce before that championship?
I was just gonna say, yeah. All
Woodland has
those
the
other
record.
years that you come up short, and then that year, everything comes together.
In all my years as president, I had a 4th, a 5th, God knows how many 6s, you know, and one 11th, right, was our not so perfect angel year, 1999, or was that 2000? 2000, I think that was, right? Shakespeare was 2001. So we hold the record for 6 prize finishes. No band has ever had any more than the Woodland String Band has had. And, you know, I mentioned it one day to Jerry LaRosa, God rest his soul. I said, you know, I'm getting so tired of getting 6 prize. He goes, don't you think there's a bunch of us who wish we could say that same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I stopped taking 6 prizes for granted. That, you know, back then 6 prize was a big deal. You're in the top 10, right? Top
Yeah.
10 isn't what it used to be. Today you have to be in the top 5. And
Yeah,
we're
but
out of the
like-
top 5 for the first time since 2012 this year.
Yeah.
Talk about getting a wake-up call, right?
Well,
So-
just that also shows how much this parade has grown and how organizations have
Stepped up.
stepped up and then also followed the lead of the bands that are in the top
Mm-hmm.
5, because you a lot of the shows that we do nowadays, I mean, if you did the show you did this past year 20 years ago, you would have won first prize.
Right.
And this year it was 6th.
And it just, you see the difference in what the shows are today. They're just, like you said, the running around that alto and tenor sax players do in front of the band today is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
While they're playing the saxophone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the parades, you know, back in the '80s. No one's moving like that.
No.
I mean, there might be little here and there,
We
but
opened
it's
up,
not.
we brought out 6 dancers to do their tarantella if you're doing an Italian theme, right?
Yeah.
That was your big show. So, yeah, it's changed a lot, and
Yeah.
it's ever evolving. And you keep on saying, well, we can't go any further than this. We can't go any further than that. We
Never
find
say
a way.
never. Never say never.
You know,
Especially this.
a great testament, the Uptown String Band.
Yeah.
You know, we did our club crawl. And we went up to Uptown this year. We had never done that before. And we're up there, and Thor got up there and he goes, you guys are our motivation. Woodland proved it can be done.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, they go and take our spot. You know, so
Well.
kudos to the Uptown String Band,
Yes.
commitment, extra work, extra effort, following, you know, we followed our own model, and they followed other bands' models and developed and perfected it.
Yeah.
So, you
Well,
know-
it's a commitment. It's just it's a commitment that you have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
that-
you
that-
can control you. You can try to motivate the rest of your band to do the same commitment you have, but no one has the same commitment you have.
Well, you hope they do, you know, and there again, commitment is not something easy today.
No.
The world has changed.
No, it absolutely has.
You know, I can honestly say where we used to get 40 to 45 out for rehearsals, we don't see that during the spring and the summer anymore.
No.
No.
You know, 30, 35 is a big rehearsal. You know, we used to always strive to get 30 guys out for a parade. Today, if we get 20, we're happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just everybody has more important things in their life, and COVID kind of showed them that.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
for, you know, there's different kinds of commitment. There's those who are committed, and those like us who should be committed.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Yes.
The ones that should be committed are more committed than anybody.
exactly.
Yeah, that's the point.
But
Yeah.
there again, and I got to give a shout out. I don't know if she'll watch the podcast or not, but that 17-year-old I started dating when I joined the Woodland String Band back in 1977 is my wife of 44 years, and she has supported me through every step I've made, not just in Woodland, but in my life, joining the military, you know, moving away for work for 6 months, and all the different things I did. She's been a motivating factor behind everything that I've accomplished in my life. So I'm very fortunate to have somebody like that supporting what I do.
And that's the other thing. You don't unfortunately you don't have that entire commitment from the family, like for some people, and some people have to choose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your family has to come first,
'Cause,
always.
yeah, there is a bit of sacrifice with being a mummer, just in general.
You miss birthday parties.
Yeah.
Your wife goes to a lot of, you know, family events without you, and different things like that. I mean, I remember my, I guess it was my father-in-law's birthday party. It was the day of our dress rehearsal for 2012, and my son and I both arrived late. And that year, our costumes came in late, and the colors of your marabou around your wrist dyed your wrist. So I had purple wrists. My son had green wrists, and I remember showing up at that party. But yeah, we were late because we had a dress rehearsal. You couldn't miss dress
you can't
rehearsal,
miss.
right? And so there's other times that I've missed family events, and now that I'm in my 60s, maybe my eyes are a little wider open than they were when I was in my 20s and 30s when I was president and couldn't miss. And unfortunately, sometimes I do miss, but there's Sunday. I want to be in Haddon. It's a great parade, but it's my granddaughter's birthday party, and they're having a tea party, and I'm their butler. And I already committed before the Haddon Township Parade came up, and Jeeves has got to be there. I mean, I have to
Absolutely.
greet all these young ladies as they come in and help them get their fascinators set and sit them in their seats, and and I understand it's everybody struggles to get guys out this time of year. It's communion season, there's parties, there's graduations and everything else. And I feel terrible that I'm going to miss. But I'm going to go Saturday to Winchester, and I'll do the 1.7 mile parade, and I'll miss the half-mile parade in Haddon Township. So, but the sacrifices are true. And it is something that, when I was younger, I bowled, I golfed, and I did string bands. As I had children, I had to give up something. So bowling went first. And then later on, golf went. And then it just became, I could only do string bands. Because when I first got into string bands, you did maybe 10 parades a year. That was about it. Today, you do 30, 35 performances throughout the course of the year.
Yes, easily.
You got to generate X amount of dollars to be able to keep your band on the street. And you don't have TV money. You don't have the show of shows. You don't have... the prize money, these other things that we used to have. Back my first year as president, I think TV money was $27,000.
Yeah.
Show of shows brought in $12,000 to $15,000, depending on how good you did in ticket sales. Prize money would average you between $7,000 and $10,000.
Right.
None of that exists anymore.
No, the only way to make that up is by going to parades.
And assessing your member dues.
Yes.
It's something we never had in the past, but now I think everybody has some sort of dues they have to pay.
Yeah.
But there again, our tradition is kept alive by us.
Yeah,
Right.
we have to make the changes and change with the times. And I mean, this Haddon Avenue parade that we're going to be doing here is something great that we didn't have.
Right.
The luau that's coming up. It's a great opportunity. It's a fun day for all of us to get together.
That's the best part of that, Pat, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. We do 20 minutes on the stage?
Yeah, 25.
Yeah.
But we're spending the rest of the day enjoying each other's company.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the closest thing we have to having a show of shows, right? Where we're all in the same place at the
Yes.
same time.
Yeah.
We rent out a hotel down there, the motel, and we all go down there. We spend the weekend. Because we find it's a lot of fun, and we get a chance to go up and enjoy ourselves and not have to worry about driving home afterwards.
Right.
And we have a great time, and a band needs 4 or 5 extra guys or gals to help them get to their 25 people. Sure, we'll go up with you, no problem. We'll help you out. Give me your lyre book, and we'll do it together.
Yeah.
That's what it's all
That's
about.
the fun part about it.
And
yeah.
it's an entertaining day for the people too.
Oh, absolutely.
I
It's
think
a lot
everybody
of
goes
fun.
there has a lot of fun.
This past year was our first year that we've been doing. We've been invited a few times to do it, but we always had other commitments with other parades. With it, it falls on Flag Day.
Yep.
There's a lot of Flag Day parades. Not always in around this area, but
Right.
New York, here we come.
Further you go, the more money you make.
Exactly. So, but I mean, yeah. I mean, I rented a house for that weekend. I have a house down there that weekend that I'll be down there. But I have a parade that morning.
Are you marching in the Elks Parade?
No,
Or whatever it
we're
is?
not doing the Elks Parade. The Elks Parade is actually the weekend before.
Okay.
But we have another parade that day that we're going to drive halfway up the state of New Jersey, go to, and then I'm going to drive all the way back.
Good for you.
It's just
For the luau?
for the luau.
You got a house for the luau?
I got a house for the luau.
I thought you said string band weekend.
Oh, I got that too. Same house.
We have the same motel. We have the whole motel for String Band Weekend. We only have
Yeah.
half of it for luau.
But yeah, I mean, it's just what it is. So I'll have a bus for most of my members, and
Did you ever see us arrive on String Band Weekend for the parade?
no.
The motel we stay at has golf carts. We get dressed at the
all
motel.
dressed up
We all
on the
hop
golf
on it.
court.
Look at HR Puffin stuff going down Central Avenue. All going down there in 6 golf carts. you know, but we don't have to worry about parking.
No.
And we get down there, we just, you know, and it's fun. We don't have, you know, it was novel the first year. Now they just expect it every year. They have the golf carts waiting for us, and we just putter down there with the golf carts.
Yeah. The golf carts are all over the place down there.
And you know, there again, String Band Weekend has been going on forever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's another great tradition. They're hats off to North Wildwood.
Yes.
You know, and hats off to Ocean City with
Yes.
what they do to support Mummery and bring us in front of the people.
Yep.
We're down there 3 times. We also do the baby parade down in North Wildwood. And we used to do the boardwalk, us and Fralinger.
Yeah.
We alternated Thursdays all summer long, and then that went away, unfortunately. But the shore communities do have a way of helping promote the
yeah.
tradition, which is great, you know. And let's face it, there's a lot of people from Mummery who spend their summers and their weekends down the shore. So.
And a lot of the people that are retired that live down there, those are our number one fans.
Yeah.
Those are our clientele that we've always had.
What do they
So,
always say? Our fan base is dying. No, they're being replenished.
Yeah.
You know, we tend to be entertaining most to the people who are 7 years and younger and 70 years and older.
Yes.
They're the ones who get us the most. you
And they
know?
got the same look on their face when you're walking down the street.
Yeah.
I think it's a little
Yeah.
bewilderment. But
I still, during those Ocean City parades in the summertime, it might be hot, it might be uncomfortable, but there's such energy you get off that crowd.
and not everybody's local. You know,
No.
and they want to take pictures with you, and they want to understand what we are, and it's the same way when we used to do the Wildwood Boardwalk. You know, you can go up there and people look at you and like, what are you?
Yeah.
And then you start talking to them. Then you start understanding. Today you just say, hey, visit us at woodlandstringband.org,
Yeah.
and you can see more about us, or you know, go to the Philadelphia String Band Association, and there's more just like us.
Yeah.
So when you're in those kind of communities, or even when you, like I said, you go up to North Jersey, you go up to Massachusetts, or down to Virginia, and in our case, you go to Ireland, and you get a chance to spread what Mummery is. You know, this was our 25th anniversary going to Macroom, County Cork, Ireland.
Yeah, I saw your wife was the Grand Marshal.
Yeah, talk more about that how that all became
Okay. Well,
into existence. And
back in 2000, we got a letter from the Lee Valley Enterprise Board inviting us to come over and celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Macroom. We knew about Quaker City going to Kiltama, and I talked to Harry about it, and he told me what a wonderful trip it was and how they ran their trip. So I made the same proposal to Macroom, and they said, okay, great. That was in September, and somehow I got 69 people to go that following March. And we're in a small town of about 1,500 people. And
okay,
we figure, okay, it'll be a nice little parade. So we told them we got to get out to meet the people. So we played at for the local school kids. We played at the hospital, and the hospital was right on the other side of the bridge. And they said, we'll have a bus. I said, no, we'll walk back. He said, you sure? I said, yes. So we marched back into Macroom, not knowing that the street we were marching down was a national highway, and we had traffic backed up halfway to Killarney. But the people were mesmerized at what this was, marching down the street. So parade day comes, and they're hoping to get maybe 2,000-3,000 people out for the parade. We go out there that day for the parade, and there's over 12,000 people.
Oh, wow.
wow,
Wall-to-wall people. We're standing down, as they call it, down below. It's only a 6-block parade. It's a small town. And we're standing there waiting. Chris Dawes is our music director back then. And our buddy Padraig O'Driscoll, who's the Tom Loomis on that end, he coordinates for Macroom as I coordinate for Woodland. He goes, what are you waiting for? Waiting for the parade to move. He goes, lads, that's not the parade, that's the people. They're waiting for you.
you are the parade.
Now they have these bike barricades like they do on 2nd Street for the parade. But it's just, so we do that. We played in a different pub every night, and we got to know the people. And since then, they've been here for both my children's weddings. We've been over there for weddings. We've been over there. My nephew got married over there.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've been over there for summer vacations. My daughter vacationed twice over there. Our friends own a dairy farm, and we spend time at their dairy farm.
Right.
It's a really, they've been over here in the summertime and spent time with us at my house and my neighbor's house, and you know, it just, we're driving down from Newark Airport one day, and we had a high-top conversion van, and the town the counselor he's riding in the passenger seat, and it's like 98 degrees outside, and he has the window open. I said, Jer, put the window up, you're killing us. He goes, that's lovely. I said, no, it's not, it's like a furnace. He had 2 air conditioners working in this car, and you got a window open with 98 degrees. But they've become like family.
That's awesome.
You know, we truly have a great relationship with them. And this year, the 10th anniversary, they gave me the honor of me being Grand Marshal. And then this year, we're walking down the street, my wife and I, we're getting ready to go on a tour. And my buddy Pat O'Connell, he goes by the name of Pato. He's a member of the Woodland String Band, by the way. Every year we induct a different member town into the Woodland String Band's Ireland division. And all of a sudden we hear him yell, Tom and Mary, Tom and Mary. So he goes run across the street. Nearly gets hit by a car, but he made it across the street okay. And he goes to Mary in his strong Irish accent, asking her to be Grand Marshal of the parade. And Mary goes, I'm sorry? I said, he asked you, will you be the Grand Marshal of the parade? She goes, no. I said, what do you mean, no? She goes, that's embarrassing. So Mary has supported the effort every year that we go there. You know, this year we brought 111 people, I think it was. And everybody, you know, it's an ever-evolving list up until 2 weeks before you go. People dropping off, people adding, you know, people staying in this hotel, people staying in this host family, whatever it may be. Well, all that's going to be charted. You got to collect the airfare. You got to collect the accommodations, the ground transportation, where they're staying, you know, what bus they're going to be on when they leave. They leave from Philly, they leave from Jersey. All these spreadsheets are managed by me and my wife. I manage them, she corrects them. You know? But she puts a lot of effort into it, and then see her get recognized for that, it was really, really cool. So she was a little embarrassed, you know.
She looked very happy in the photos.
She enjoyed it. Well, you understand, my wife is 98% Irish. Yeah. Mary Elizabeth Gallagher, or Gallagher, as they say over there. Yeah. So for her, it was quite the honor to be the Grand Marshal, and like you said, they're friends and family. She just felt bad for the Flower Macroom because that's who's usually the Grand Marshal. Okay. And that girl had to take kind of a side seat to Mary. But it's an honor that she has a commemorative little crystal vase they gave her to go with it. So it was really a nice event.
I still remember when she won that Disney trip just before COVID. And I remember seeing her in Pennsauken 2 days later when we used to do Pennsauken with you. And I go, am I coming with you? You're on the side of the road.
That was another event because COVID came along.
I know.
And we didn't go for almost, a year. And then when we finally went, nobody would go with us. And it was a trip for 4.
Yeah.
So my old Navy buddy who lives in Florida, joined us in Orlando for the week. And so Mary's talking to the lady who was the coordinator for it. She goes, well, we're only using 2 of the tickets. She goes, well, we'll give you the other 2 tickets for some other time. She goes, well, we're going to go to Key West from Orlando. She goes, well, we'll fly you to Key West. She goes, well, we got to come home. She goes, we'll fly you home from Key West. I said, keep on seeing it. Maybe we'll give you a hotel. But, when she won that trip, I was like, are you? And everybody always jokes around that if you want to win a raffle, go in with Mary Loomis.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, she's been winning since 1977.
I'm watching the parade, and I'm watching the Thanksgiving Day parade, and I'm like, no, that can't be her. That can't be Tom's wife. And then next thing you know, I see Facebook light up. It just lights up. I'm like,
we're sitting there.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
We're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the phone rings, and it says, unknown caller. And Mary says, I'm not going to answer. I said, it's Thanksgiving. It's not a telemarketer.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You probably just wanted a trip to Disney. She answers, goes, yeah, right. She picks up and goes, yes. Yes. That's correct. Yes. Okay. Yep. Yes. All right. Thank you. She hangs up. I said, what? She goes, I just want a trip to Disney. I said, no, you didn't. And then, 10 minutes later comes on the TV, and the winner of the trip to Orlando, Mary Loomis. So
it made me laugh so hard because I remember I saw her 2 days later in Pennsauken when we used to do the Pennsauken parade.
We still do that parade. That Pennsauken is where we were from. Yeah. That's where my wife and I met, Pennsauken High School. It's still going back to the old neighborhood. Westfield Avenue is still, it's my buddies. When we go there, we'll drop cars at the end of the parade, drive to the beginning. and not knowing it, oh, that's where me and Mary are married. You know, that's where Mary used to live. This, and they said, we got the tour of Pennsauken again. You know?
Just in case you
I was
forget.
born and raised there. It's, and that's where our first house was. You know, until we moved to Gloucester Township, we lived in Pennsauken.
Yeah.
To go back to Ireland, how much of Woodland is still over there? Any pieces of suits or hats or?
What we tried to do, well, it's funny, sometimes, because we don't wear this year's suits, we always wear last year's suits, right? Because
You never know.
we used to send them over in a container, which was fine because they came back and everything's fine. Now we have to check everything. So they're going in costume bags, they get beat up going through checks. So we use last year's costumes. And we also use some of our Brazil costumes, a baseline, which was just a tuck suit because it's nice and light to get there. So this year, we made headbands because the Hawaiian hats were too big. So they were floral headbands. And we made different fedoras for those tuck suits.
Okay.
And the whole thing was, when you're done,
Oh yeah, I think I remember
give
seeing-
away your hat to some kid. And everybody also gets a bandana to wear underneath, so they have something green on. So they're giving away their hats and their bandanas. When we left there after 2 years ago, we had wore those same Cuban suits that became our, Latin suits, and they got reused.
Yeah, yeah.
We left almost all of them behind. We had a hard time because we had to
Really?
bring back as much as we brought over because of the check bags. So, guys, you got to bring some back, But we left almost all the suits behind that year. So there's in the theater, they lost a lot because the theater had a fire, but we used to leave a lot of costumes every year, so they had them for the theater, and they would use, because they do the thing they call panto, it's their pantomime show. And we left cowboy suits behind, Arabian suits, we've left just about everything behind over the years. So,
Okay.
and there's always going to be a piece of Woodland and Macroom, I hope.
Right.
I mean, every year we go, there's mummers out on almost every pub window or every shop
yeah,
window,
okay.
because they're friends, right?
Right.
And all the shop owners are local residents, and it's a very, very tight-knit community over there.
Yeah,
And the
it's-
people are just wonderful.
It's funny because I do all of our social media, and I'll periodically look of where people are viewing us from, and there's always Ireland. So I'm thinking this is Woodland's fault, but thank you.
It's our pleasure, thank you. It's like I said, we have another guy who's just a New Year's Day marshal for us. He's been on the trip, the last 3 trips, and he and his fiance are getting married in Ireland.
Oh, nice.
He was setting everything up when
There
he
you
was
go.
there this March, and my nephew, I mentioned he get married there. We're down in Wildwood. That's where he lives. He's the football coach for Wildwood High and a history teacher there. And he comes up to me, he goes, Uncle Tom, you know anybody in Ireland? I said, yeah. He goes, well, Priscilla's going to be in Cork doing a pre-Olympic competition. She was an Olympic high jumper. And he goes, we want to get married in Ireland. Do you think you can help us? I said, hold my beer. I'll get right back to you. So the next day I call my buddy in Ireland. We have everything set up within 3 days.
Nice.
So he and his wife, she's going to come down. They're going to come in from Cork. And they're going to get married in Macroom. And it's just going to be them and a few of their friends that are with her on the Olympic team. So my wife and I and my brother, his father, and my sister-in-law, we surprised them and we showed up for the wedding. And we were there for the wedding. But, the local photographer was there. The people at the hotel set everything up for him, had everything arranged. He didn't have to worry about bringing a tux. They had her dress all pressed and ready for her to go. And they can never do... the Irish hospitality is something that's unique. And, people don't go to Ireland for Disney World. They don't go for the warm, sunny beaches. You go for the people.
Yeah.
And it truly is their national treasure is the people. If you ever have the chance to go to Ireland, I highly recommend you go.
That's on my list.
And if you go to
really wanna
Macroom, just say, "Hey, I know Woodland."
Woodland,
and you'll
yeah.
be well taken care of in
Loomis,
Macroom.
Loomis.
Be careful.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Irish is in our blood.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at, I knew a couple people that went over with you, and seeing their Instagram stories and photos, it's just
Yeah, we take people from other bands. That
Yeah.
we call it the Woodland Ireland division.
Yeah.
Everybody is welcome to join us on the trip, and it's we do a little bit of work. We do play for the schools still, and we do play in a pub or two, and the 5 of us go and play at the hospital now, not as many as used to, and then you have the parade, and then there's a concert. So there's a little bit of work involved, but it's minor compared to what you would think it would be, right?
Right.
So, but it's still to me, it's well worth the effort. We do it every other year now because it's just so much work.
It's every other year?
Every
Okay.
other year. So
I thought it was like, I knew there was a couple years in between. I wasn't sure.
yeah, after 17 years, it started to become just, it's a daunting, it's a 9-month
a lot
event
to
to
put
put it
together,
together.
too,
Yeah, so we got to the point where I just couldn't do it every year anymore. And
Yeah.
every other year makes it that much more
It's special now, yeah, and it gives maybe someone that wasn't able to go, time to get the funds ready and
Exactly.
everything.
And we try to make it as affordable as possible. It's not a fundraiser for us. It's done to try to get people to enjoy the beauty of Ireland, and for us to bring the tradition of mummery to them as well. So it's always a lot of fun.
That's always a great thing to bring something like that, like this, so unique to our area.
There, and it is unique, and
Yeah.
they picked this out of a show's program book
Really?
because they liked our feathers. And it was 2000, which was the first time in 20 some years we were out of the top 10. And they liked it was our not so perfect angel year.
Well, there you go. Something good come out of that thing.
Yeah, it did, and it worked out well. So there again, you never know when you go out to perform. When you step off that bus, you're on stage,
Yes.
Yes.
right? You go out there and you bring a positive reflection upon your club and the tradition.
Right.
And it's important that when you're out there, you embrace what we do and why we do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hot. You're beat up at the end of the parade. Last thing you want to do is sit around and chat and take pictures. But you know what? It's important that you do that. That extra 15, 20 minutes is really important to the people who hired you.
Yeah.
As well as, trying to attract people to want to do it again with us.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You're selling an experience.
Exactly.
That's ultimately what it is. And when you're out there, you might not be yourself, but you got to be a character of yourself.
And you are. You really are a character, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're wearing a costume, and
You're there to entertain.
exactly, and you're on stage.
Yes.
And you try to preach that to people that, I know you want to have that the refreshment, but can wait till you get back on the bus.
Yeah.
You're on stage now. You have to be, with my job, I was trained 1 year from the Disney Institute. And the Disney Institute, they would say that when you walked out of that door, you're a cast member. Whether your job is to sweep the street or you're dressed as Mickey Mouse, you're a cast member.
Yeah.
And you're on stage.
Yep.
You have to take that approach that you're on stage.
Yep.
And give the people what they pay for and what they expect. And it's, it's different. They're getting paid. We're not.
Yeah.
We pay to go out there and sweat our rear ends off.
Yeah.
But you're still given a product and you're, like I said, a character.
Yeah, and we're all. Basically, when it all said and done, we're all volunteers.
Exactly.
We're volunteering for our club, and we're trying to do. We're trying to do the best for our club and the hobby at the same time.
Right.
So, but
Is it really
I
a
love
hobby?
it.
It's a lifestyle.
It's definitely.
It's a tradition. It's an infatuation. Hobby.
Yeah, infatuation.
Listen, we meet every Wednesday night. I look so forward to coming here every Wednesday.
That's how I feel on Tuesdays. You get to see the gang. You get to hang out. And I don't drink it on a Tuesday night, but to me, just going there and being with the guys and playing some happy music and trying to learn a new song every week and trying to do something that's in my blood is the only way to look at it today, right?
No, it's something great. I love doing this every week. I look forward to it.
I do look forward to the 1 or 2 weeks in the summer that I take a Tuesday night off, just to see what my wife does on a Tuesday night. I said, "What'd you do tonight?" She goes, "Nothing."
See, last year, like we go away for 1 week, and then of course, last year we get our New Year's music the Monday night of my vacation from in Ocean City, so I end up.
Coming up from vacation.
Yeah, I need to come. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what are we doing tonight? And I'm just sitting there thinking. And I just finally, my parents rent a nice big house in Ocean City. And she has everybody down. And I just go to them. I go to them Sunday night. I'm like, you know what? I'm going tomorrow. I go. I love it.
That's only an hour. It's not a big deal.
No, it isn't a big deal.
No.
But it's just. It's like it's. This is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And if I was sitting down in Ocean City, I would be thinking about here.
Well, yeah. It's just. I always say You know, missing a Tuesday night, I talk about what I'm missing. It's no different than when you and the wife would have date night and you go out for dinner, you sit down there, what do you talk about? The kids.
Yeah.
You know, we want to get away from the kids. We need a night away from the kids. You go and sit down at dinner,
Oh,
you
yeah.
start talking about the kids.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, we're doing this, or we're doing that, or we're doing, yeah.
Yeah. So
He has this coming up and that coming up. It's like, oh, come on.
I miss those days.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the hecticness of parenting mixed with string band always kept everything interesting. Now that I'm a grandfather, I still try to get to the softball games or the soccer games, but you're not obligated, right?
No.
You try to get to them. And when my children were growing up, Tommy was in the band with me, so I always wanted something to do with my daughter. You know, so I coached her from softball from the time she was 5 until she graded out at 17.
Yeah.
And the reason I became the manager is because I could pick the schedule and make sure she never played on a Tuesday night.
There you go.
See, I mean, I took the job I have that I'm still at now so I could do those things with my kids too. Because, you know, Patrick, I always did with the band. When Patrick came into Broomall, that's when I came into Broomall. Dominic was not a musician. He was football. He was baseball. I took my job. I was working at a car dealership out in Ardmore. I wasn't getting home till 7:30 at night.
Right.
I took the job I'm at now because they get done at 5. It's a half-hour drive. 5:30 to be home. Practice starts at 6. So I could be at practice.
Right.
I might still be dressed from work, you know, but I can do the practices and stuff like that. And then when practice was over, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I show up to Woodland, I show up to Broomall for my practice.
You
You know?
had to, right? You just-
But it's just one of those things. It was just, I took the job I had so I could do the things that I could with my kids.
And you want to be involved in your
Yes.
children's lives, and,
Yes.
and that's important. And you know, I see it today. The younger generation today, they're really, really involved.
Yes.
More so than we ever were.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
their kids are doing more than our kids ever did.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You
absolutely,
know,
yeah.
there's not a season that they're not playing a sport.
No, and it's always something, sometimes it's the same sport, sometimes it's something different, but like, I mean, I always remember when I was a kid, my dad was my hockey coach. So when I played hockey, he was my coach, and I'm like, well, I remember that, I want my kids to remember that too.
Yeah, it's
So-
important. My daughter still talks about the time we had together coaching her.
Yeah.
You know, we were just at her daughter's softball game the other night, and her daughter's a lot like her. She swings at the high ones. You know?
Everybody swings at the high
She
ones.
always swings at the high ones. But I was sitting there doing it, I said, oh my God, Mandy, Tegan's just like you. She goes, yeah, she likes the high ones, Daddy. You know? But, you know, this is my 39-year-old daughter who still calls me Daddy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a big part of that is because we were involved in her life.
Yeah.
You know, the way, you know, we still are. And, you know, my son and I have become closer now than we've ever been.
Yeah.
You know, and your children grow up. I mean, my baby's going to be 37 years old,
Yeah.
you know, in August. And God, where's the time going? You know, time goes by so fast.
Yeah, and honestly for us, I think it goes by even faster because we're always thinking next year.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
Yeah, this hobby, we're always a year ahead.
Look, it says 26 on my shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I'm going to do in February? It's going to say 27.
Yeah.
And we're 30 days in.
Well, everything we have right now is WSB 100.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
you guys,
we
yes.
just had stickers come in, and we have a new logo. TJ Ferry made us this wonderful logo.
I saw that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
You know, and we're trying to make sure that this is a year that we embrace. And, you know, Alex, you brought it up that, you know, it's not many things make it to 100 years.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we do it the right way.
You need a round back piece to fit.
They're putting a back piece on the bass line, I hear.
Well, good thing you're not on the baseline.
I am. I'm still baritone's on the bass, so you know. But that's I think the part of the New Orleans theme was to do a grand theme.
Yeah.
You know, for the
You can
100th
take it over.
anniversary, and to do it the right way. And
Yeah.
you know, that puts an onus on the board of directors and on the membership. You know, that's you know an extra few bucks we got to raise to be able to pull off a theme of this ilk. So
I'd rather have plumes than props.
you ain't got blooms?
I have plumes.
Good. You want to loan some? Hey, anybody
rather-
out there who would like to loan the Woodland String Band plumes for New Year's Day, we will give you a premium for them, and we'll tip them and make sure you get them all back.
Yes.
We do need plumes this year, and we don't have enough to do what we have to do. and to buy it for 1 year is like, I told these guys, I'll start talking to some of our friends and see if we can borrow something, because when you're doing a Mardi Gras theme, it's got to have plumes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
most of our plumes, we dyed back our pirate year. We dyed in 3 shades of blue. Well, blue's not a Mardi Gras color.
No.
So,
No, but no, it was like we bought plumes for we bought plumes. What was it? I think it was like $500 a pound.
yeah. And they were
And
body.
82. It was like 82 on a pound.
And were they body feathers, right? They weren't the tail feathers?
they were
the long
Yeah, the
18
long
to
ones.
24s?
There was 82 of them
In a pound?
on a pound.
Yeah.
I could have them however many number I wanted in whatever color I
Left,
wanted.
right, and you could do left, right, center is the whole
Yeah,
bit that they
For
do.
casino?
Casino.
Yeah, casino year.
I wanted 2 pounds. I got voted down to 1. Well, I just had I wanted to be. We had yellow, we had pink, we had different colors to match the suits.
Right.
And I wanted to do all that color, and I ended up having to use white that I had.
I had to mix it in and
Yeah.
using the color to add to it, yeah.
The card suits, right?
The card suits.
Yeah.
You know, there again, you're getting into the expense
Oh yeah.
of what we try to do. And how long were you going to wear those back pieces?
I think we wore them twice.
Yeah.
We took them with us.
Yeah, we
went-
took 'em
We took them up to Hudson when we went to Hudson for their Flag Day show.
Yeah, because it was a big parade.
Yes,
But
and
some-
we wanted to make an impression, and they want us back. And
Well, one thing I can say, whenever I see the Jersey String Band in a parade, you always have a good group, and they always look like they're having fun.
that's
You know,
goes
and,
back to what I
and-
said.
and that there's spreads to the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So kudos to you guys for doing it the right way. One of the things I changed when I was president, you know, we don't call them jobs anymore.
Right.
Because job is a negative connotation, right?
Yeah.
A job is something you have to do, right? So I try to call them performances. We have a performance this Saturday. We have a parade or whatever it may be. I hate when you call it a job
yeah,
because it seems negative, right?
Yeah.
Your job is something you have to do. A performance is something you want to do.
yeah, or an event or something to that effect. Yeah, so
Yeah, like our schedule will say parade, concert, and then it'll say performance. What's this performance? It's a corporate gig. I can't put corporate gig on the schedule.
yeah, I just use combo.
Yeah, well, yeah, this one came through the association, so
Yeah,
and we this year, you know, I don't know what other bands' budgets are, and I won't mention what ours is, but the budget we have to try to achieve the balance what we need for our New Year's budget is ridiculous in the amount
Oh, yeah.
of performances we have to do.
yeah,
But you know, you try to work smarter, not harder, right? So, but this weekend is a not so smart weekend. We're in Winchester on Saturday, then Haddon popped in out of nowhere for Sunday.
yeah.
So it's, you know, trying to make sure we get 20 to 25 out for each gig without overtaxing the guys, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
That's a hurdle in itself to have 2 back-to-backs.
And
then,
we
you know.
try, and I always put it out to my members, and I try not to kill our members, you know.
Yeah.
But I also have people that would like. I mean, honestly, I have more people that would rather give up a full Saturday, do 2 parades or however many parades we have on Saturday, and then at least have a Sunday where they don't do anything.
Yeah.
So, and to be honest with you, more of my members, for us personally, we have a lot of members that are personally involved with their church, whether they're Sunday school teachers or they lead the music section or they lead the electronics and all that stuff. It's hard for us to get people on Sunday, so
Yeah.
I concentrate on
Get the Saturday gigs, and most bands will tell you they don't want to do a Saturday gig because that's a family day, right?
Yeah.
That the guys would rather do a Sunday afternoon parade.
Yeah.
But you know, when you have like we try to tell our guys, hey, we know you can't make them all.
Yeah,
Let's try to make 50% of them.
Yeah.
And that'll balance it out, right? They'll give us 20 to 25 for every parade. So that's what the presser's trying to pull off this weekend. And I'm one of those guys only making one, and I feel so guilty that I'm missing a parade. Just
because you care.
well, and I'm the business manager, right? I'm
Yeah.
the one who's putting the guys out there to do these
Oh
gigs.
yeah, no. I trust me. I'm the business manager for us too,
Well, I
so
blame
I
this one
understand
on
that.
Sammy. I didn't book this one. Sammy did.
Yeah.
There you go. Blame him.
This isn't mine.
Blame-
but I
blame
I got a great right hand man in Lee Winter. Lee does a great job. He does a lot of the hunting for us for gigs and stuff like that. And we work on negotiating together, and I kind of manage where we're at. But you know, I'm trying to. They're going to try to back off a little bit where I can and get somebody else to take it on them.
It's hard. It's being a business manager is very hard for the band because you want to make sure you get the most bang for your buck and raise the most money, because I mean that's our main form of fundraising.
Sure it is.
That's how we fundraise, and that's what we are. And nobody in our band takes any money out of the pocket. It all goes right to the band. That's why we're all volunteers. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to just balance that out and figure out, okay, am I killing my members? Is the price worth what we're doing?
Yeah,
So-
we have a, there again, going back to harken back to we're a member-owned band, just like you are. Our books are open.
Yeah.
Our members know exactly what we make on the performance. They know exactly what we bring in. They see our balance sheet, and they understand. We just did our financial update, myself and the treasurer, last Tuesday, to review to the members. Here's where your income streams are,
Yeah.
and here's where your expenses are.
Yeah.
And so they understand, why do you have to bring in $175,000 a year?
Oh yeah, and I lay it out to the band as well and go, this is what we're making for the parade, and this is what we're doing here, and this is what we got here, and this is what the buses cost, and this is what the food costs. This is
Yeah.
why we do what we have, and it's not an easy job what we do, because you gotta value something based off of what you think it's worth and what they can come up with.
Yeah, and you want to
And
be
you
fair
learn,
to the
you
people
learn.
contracting you, right? Yeah, I want to go out there and I want to do as many performances as we can, and I really want to make sure we spread, the joy of mummery. But some people call and they say, "Well, we only have $300." I say, "Well, that's not even pay for me to even get on my bus."
Yeah.
You don't understand. Well, we're a volunteer organization. Well, so are we.
So are we, yeah.
This is how we generate our income.
This is how
Do you
we
let
fund it.
them know, like this and this is how much a bus will cost us? So
Yes,
like $300
yes.
it's not gonna.
Bus costs have gone through the roof. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we use a bus company out of Salem County that we deal with, and it's actually someone that I know from, like, a contact I have from my work.
Okay.
So they take very good care of us. They have air-conditioned school buses.
Yeah, we use Holcomb when we need a school bus because they're
Yeah.
air conditioned. But then we use a cruiser line when we go further. We try to carpool as much as we can
Yeah,
now.
we do too.
Us too, yeah.
Because I mean, I just sat here and I literally called the bus company today and scheduled between now and 4th of July all our buses.
Yeah.
And we only needed 3 between now and then. Now we have plenty of jobs between now and then that we're carpooling to.
Yeah, we have way too much between now and the 4th of July.
Yeah. And
now
too much
4th
that week of 4th of July.
The 4th of July, we have the one the Saturday before, and then we do 7 parades on the 4th of July.
You split your band up.
Yeah, we split our band. We send, guys, then we all get together and run a meet.
Yes.
And we march
Yes.
together and run a meet. And ever since we had a member, unfortunately, have a heart attack and die on the 4th of July, we don't wear costumes on the 4th of July.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't. It's not worth our safety.
Just too many parades, and my band, that I do, we do 4, the other one does 3, but they're 1 parades as long as 2, because it's through 2 towns.
Yeah.
But it's just a long day. You're getting
yeah.
done parade, you're having a bottle of water, you're getting off the bus again, you're in the next town in Delaware County, and you're doing the next parade. And,
Yeah.
Plus, plus you're hoping that the asphalt is not
Melting your
melting
shoes.
your shoes, or you're hoping for a tree to stand under. And
Last year we're marching to the first parade, and my best friend's marching to my left-hand side like he always is. And I said, "Oh, thank God it's cloudy today. It's so nice."
The sun
soon as
comes
you
in.
said
And then
that.
5 seconds later, the sun came out. He goes, "Would you just learn to keep your mouth shut?"
You can think it, you can't say
That's what
it.
he said. And it ended up being a hot day the rest of the day. But there again, 4th of July, they're the best crowds of the year.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
Runnymede parade is
Oh, that's a
amazing.
great parade. It's a straight route.
It's short. It's
It's
less than a
short.
mile.
Yeah. It's a
they
great
do
way
it-
to end the day out.
And my wife is waiting there because I live right down the street in Gloucester Township. I get in the car and we head down to Sea Isle. So, but it's the 4th of July is one of those days it's all
Yeah.
hands on deck,
Yeah.
right? So everybody's got to be there.
Yeah.
Even a lot of our retired members march on the 4th of July since we split the band.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a busy week that week.
You guys wear your hula shirts,
Hawaiian shirts and shorts.
shirts,
Hawaiian
yeah.
shirt and khaki shorts.
Yep.
And we have to try to find a hat because there's a lot of us are older and bald, and the sun is beating on us,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it's a ball cap or a fedora or something. But yeah, we used to wear our black pants and a white tuck shirt and a vest. And they said, "Why don't just wear costumes?"
Yeah.
So one year, one of the members came and said, "We should do Hawaiian shirts." I said, "Let me contact the people we work for." They said, "We just want the band. We don't care what you wear."
Yeah.
So we did it, and one guy says, he goes, "You guys look great. You really look festive. That's outstanding." I said, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah.
Some guy say, "I don't own a Hawaiian shirt." Go to Boscov's.
Yeah.
They're $12.99.
Yeah.
You're going to wear it one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then old people like me have 7 or 8 of them hanging in the closet. So, but Hawaiian shirts and shorts, and it's still hot. When you're done that 4th parade, you're still whooped at the end
Especially
of the day.
Runnymede, because there's no
no shade.
and they
No
just
shade.
repaved it a couple of years, so it's
Yeah.
still
It's a
hot.
beautiful path to walk, to march
Straight,
on, but it's
pretty
straight.
much flat-ish.
It's a slight upgrade, but not bad.
But it is a good end to the day.
It is.
That's for sure.
And there again, there's 2 kinds of parades. There's a parade where you bring the people to the parade, and a parade that you bring to the people.
Yes.
And you always hope you're in those parades that the people come to the parade.
Oh, they come
Yes.
to Channel 6 is always there. I
Yeah.
always see Channel 6 set up, ready to record. So, but it's always a good parade.
And the VFW right there is always
Yeah.
taking pictures and videos.
And they always, they're well
appreciate
organized, and they appreciate you, and they make it easy to drop off, and they buses just cruise right up the avenue, and they park right there
by
at the
the
rec
Wawa.
center. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, they have a schedule. They have a list for everybody to come in, but I love how they do it with the string bands because it's just
Are you
string
ready?
band 1, string band 2. They don't have it
the
ain't
guy
like
with the little
with the
The
little
megaphone.
horn,
All right,
yeah.
Woodland, you ready? Come on.
you can't understand what he's
No.
saying.
no. You just gotta look for the hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always
And
tell-
if it's facing you, you know it's you.
And you're either in a funeral home or you're in the Philly Diner parking lot
Yeah.
or the laundromat, and everybody's
The
all
old Ritas.
dispersed. Yeah, the old Ritas.
Yeah.
But
It's a great parade.
It is,
It's fun,
and
'cause,
there's
like,
some
we-
parades you look for. Maple Shade's the same way. I don't know if you've ever done the Maple Shade.
We did the
July 4th parade.
We did
Once or
the
twice, maybe,
Halloween parade. a
The
couple
Halloween
times.
parade, which is still it's 4 blocks.
Yeah, it's the only parade that we do all year that you step out and you see the end of the parade at the end.
Yeah, there's the Acme. That's as far as you're
Yeah.
going. You're done.
Yep.
Yeah, you
Yep.
park at the end,
Yep, yep,
walk
yep.
to the beginning, and then march,
Yeah.
go to the school, and then come back.
And I said, we got to walk back. I said, you just went 4 blocks. You didn't make it back to Yoakum School.
Yeah. Oh, we always parked at Acme, just walk.
You walk, you
We
park
did
at the
the-
end and
we-
walk back.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, go get lined up.
We're there on, I guess it's the Saturday before the 4th of July, right? So that's
Yeah.
when that parade is. And that's there again, another nice parade.
Yeah.
And the young girl stepping off the band, she's a really sweet girl named Bobby Lynn.
Yeah.
Loomis. It's my older brother's daughter.
There you go.
Okay.
Or my younger brother's daughter, sorry. So
That's cool.
she's involved in Maple Shade. So both my brothers used to live in Maple Shade. My one brother's moved to Virginia since then, but they were both really involved in the youth football program there, so they're pretty well known in the township.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna dwindle this down.
No,
Good.
I just want to thank you guys, not just for having me. It's an honor to be here. I've watched a lot of the other podcasts that you do, but to open this up so people can see what goes on behind the kimono, right? You're opening the
Absolutely.
kimono a little bit. Here's what we do as mummers, and here's why we do it. And it's important to get that word out there. So thanks for having me. It was an honor.
That's the point. I mean, I know it's the Jersey String Band podcast, but it's become a string band podcast.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny with
To
this
have
podcast.
all the different, whether you like this person or not, to have them on, to talk to them, just to listen to them, forget all the other politics within mummers and string band and all that. Just get to know the person. That's really what this was all about, at least from my aspect of things.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the one last week with Lewis.
Yeah, I know. I made a couple people upset when I said this is one of my favorites, but
Lewis is one of the truest gentlemen.
That's exactly.
In string bands.
He had his
Yeah.
emotions on his sleeve the whole time, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, he
That was a
even
great
shedded
time.
a tear. So it's like, yeah.
There again, he's generational, right?
Yes. Right.
I'm the first generation in my family, and
Oh, so are we.
Lewis followed in the footsteps of one of the most iconic captains to ever march in string bands.
Yeah.
You know what's like come out of that shadow?
Yes.
And to shine the way he does.
And he is. He's not.
Think where
He's
we'd
not.
be today without him.
I know. Even just the crap we had the last couple of years.
Ugh.
So
Here, you know, the two of the guys I respect most in mummery get two of the crappiest jobs there ever is.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
judging and you know and parade and theme registration. Oh, good guys, have fun with those ones.
yeah, and they do it. They have no commitment to anybody, any band. They do it because they loved it. They
Yeah.
loved what they did when they had their time, when it was their time to perform, and now they're doing it so we can still perform.
Exactly. Lewis and Danny are two of the kindest-hearted people in string bands to do what they do when they have no affiliation.
Yeah.
To still dedicate the amount of time that they do.
Oh yeah.
It's we're blessed to have people like that still
Absolutely.
involved. So yeah, that you weren't alone. A lot of us thought it was one of the best ones you've had. So
Yeah. No, that was great.
I mean, that's another reason why I reached out to you, because I know you're a name. You're like you said, generational. You are, whether you like that term or not, you still are. And yeah, that's. I want to try to get more individuals like that.
Well, there's
and
a
to
lot
share
out
their
there.
stories, because yeah, we may all know somewhat, you know, but the people that are listening and watching that don't
And
know.
there's some behind the scenes that people don't know. Like a lot of people
Exactly.
outside of string bands probably didn't know who Louis Beziel was.
No.
You know,
They know his dad.
Yeah,
they
but
don't know
Louis
him.
was never a leader. He was never a captain.
no.
He was never in front of a band.
No.
You know, my favorite mummer of all times is David E. Anderson Jr. You know, he was our captain for 8 years, but people don't know him as that. You know, we know David as a guy who started marching in Woodland when he was 3 years old as his father's mascot.
Yeah.
You know, and he doesn't march any longer because he's a little older and his wheels aren't like they used to be, but he's still, every Tuesday night, he is sitting in rehearsal playing his saxophone.
There you
We
go.
do a concert, he'll be there playing his saxophone in a concert. And he is the most iconic member Woodland has ever had. You know, and when you walk into our club, he's the most respected member we've ever had. And, you know, it's because of people like him that it makes people like us want to keep on doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those people on the wall when you walk in your club.
see,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's
You walk in right
It's
to
nice
your
to
right.
see my picture on that wall with those iconic people who are in the String Band Hall
Right,
of Fame. You know,
right.
it really is an honor. And I think we're the only club that does that, where all the people in the String Band Hall of Fame have their induction letter up on the wall
Okay.
with their picture.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive.
I forget
To
who
see all
came
that.
up with that idea, but you know, I know you want to wrap this up, but one
That's
quick,
fine. Yeah.
Tommy King, who's another iconic member of Woodland,
Absolutely.
right? And his history is really in Furco, right? And then he's won a couple first prizes, as music director of Hegeman, but he's always been really important to the Woodland String Band. Well, he had left our band and he was in Hegeman, and we were getting ready to dedicate that wall. And I reached out to Tommy. I said, "Can you come to the club next Sunday? We want to have you up there for we're unveiling a Hall of Fame wall." He goes, "Well, what do you want me there for?" I said, "You're one of the Hall of Fame as a member of Woodland." So he came down. He saw his picture on the wall in a club that he was no longer affiliated with, and he was
Yeah.
so moved that we would include him in that. And it's well, you know, you were a member of this band, and there again he came back, right?
Made a
He's a
difference.
member of Woodland again, but
Yeah.
he just was amazed that we would put his picture up on the wall when he wasn't a member of Woodland. But we have a lot of pride in the members that were inducted under the Woodland String Band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one heart,
One
spirit.
spirit.
There it is.
When that first slogan first came out, it was in Latin, and none of us knew what it meant. Bobby Cunningham, God rest his soul. And we
Fun
changed it to
little story.
one heart, one spirit, and it truly is the way we try to live our lives.
Yes.
All right, that's where we'll end it, if I can speak. But yeah, Tom, thank you for
Thank you,
coming
Alex.
up.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Pat,
sir.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys. And if ever you need anything, reach out to Woodland. We're always there to help
Yep.
out.
Hey, you helped us our first year with a couple dancer suits.
Yeah. We'll be there anytime you need us in the
We
future.
greatly appreciate those butterflies.
Oh yeah, the butterflies.
We
As
were
many
glad-
butterflies as we had,
I think they were glad to move them on, to be
Yes.
honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, your members were like, yeah, take them.
Yeah, well, you put girls in spandex, we put guys in spandex. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, hit the like button, subscribe, take a listen, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.